Hello, Algebra 2. Here's the agenda for January 13th. We're going to do notes today. Take out a piece of paper. At the top of your paper, label it notes number 5. The essential question is how do we write the polynomial equations with double roots and lead negatives? So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to say that you can include exponents and lead negatives in the equations when I write them from the x-intercepts on the graph. Okay, so here we're going to get started. So right now, I just want you to write down what's in the beige box over here on the right. So this image you already have on another notes. So I want you to write down right here, what do you need to know for single roots and what do you need to know for double roots? And so a single root is this dot right here, the x-intercept root. Remember, root means x-intercept. A single root is when you have something like x plus 3 with no exponent. Right here, and well, let me go back and say a single root is where the graph just keeps going through the x-axis. Right here, the double root is where your graph comes down, touches, and goes back up. So your graph comes down and touches the x-axis and then goes back up. That's a double root, and that has an exponent. So what do you need to know for single roots? No exponent. So something like x plus 3. What do you need to know for double roots? Has an exponent. Something like x plus 1 squared. Okay? And on the graph, the double root comes when your graph comes down, touches, and goes back up. A single root, the graph goes right through the x-axis, okay? Now I need you to draw 4 graphs. And if you can draw them like this, they need to be small. We're just going to do quick graphs. So I need 4, and we're going to write in the middle right here. So leave some space in the middle. So draw 4 grids, and we'll fill in some graphs, okay? So just 4. And they can be small, okay? They don't have to be really big. So hit pause while you do that. Okay, so these are the 4 graphs that I want you to draw. You can notice where the 0 is at. Right, so here's the middle of the graph, 0, 0. And then this is for what do you need to know for when end behavior arrows point up or down, and specifically down. So just on your paper, so you went like this, right? So just draw a quick picture. Let me get a different color. So just draw a quick picture like that. That's all you have to do. For this one, you would just draw a quick picture. And so your picture looks something like that, right? And put arrows on it, okay? And as you notice, some arrows go up, some arrows go down, and that's what we have to talk about. Hit pause if you need a minute. Okay, so the beginning of a graph starts with either lead positives or lead negatives. So this graph right here would be something like y equals x squared with a positive. This one, and you're labeling this on your graphs, is going to be 2, 3, y equals negative, and then x to the 1, 2, 3, 4th. So because the arrows are down, then you need a lead negative. Okay? Arrows up, then you have a lead positive. All right? So you got to remember, if your both arrows are down, then you have to have a lead negative. Now you should know it's x to the 4th because we counted, right? 1, 2, 3, and add 1. Remember the curves are one less, so there's only one curve, so it's squared. Okay, now how do you tell the difference on these two problems? All right, so let's first put the answers up there, and then I'll show you how. So this one would be y equals, and there's 1, 2 curves, so it's an x cubed. But is it positive x cubed or negative x cubed? It's a positive, and I'll show you why. On this next one, there's 1, 2. So we're going to put this as 1, 2. So this is also 3x cubed. But the right side is what decides. Your right arrow decides that this is negative x cubed. Right arrow points down. It doesn't matter the left arrow, it's the arrow on the right. This one, the right arrow points up. So that would be a positive lead. So positive lead. This one, when the right arrow points down, then add a lead negative. Okay? So either the arrows, both arrows pointing up, both arrows pointing down, or the arrow on the right is up, or the arrow on the right is up, or the arrow on the right is down. If the arrows on the right is down and the other one's up, then it's a lead negative. Hit pause if you need a moment. Okay, so I need you to go ahead and draw this graph. You do need to be accurate. There is a number here at 4. There's a number here at 1. There's a number here at -2. I'm just labeling those. So hit pause for a minute and then come back. So we need to know what is the equation. So first, both arrows up. So that means lead positive. So then we need a bunch of parentheses, and let's write out our intercepts. So right here, let me start with y equals. Okay, so right here at -2, that represents, remember it has to be the positive, opposite. Here's our next intercept at 1. So this would be, it's x -1 because you put it in as opposite. Remember we did that lesson. Now right here is a double root because the graph comes down and hits and goes back up. It's a double root. That's what part of the lesson today, okay? A double root. So that means at this spot we have to put a square. So x, it's +4, so we put -4 and square it. Okay, so you have to put that little square. And it's because the graph comes down, hits, and goes back up. That's why you put that little 2 exponent there. Okay, that's a double root. The other ones are single roots because the graph goes through the x-axis. Hit pause if you need some time. Okay, here's the next one. Go ahead and take a minute to draw the graph. Hit pause. Okay, so I'm just filling in all the numbers here. All right, we have, okay. So you drew the graph. So both arrows down. That means we need a lead negative. So y equals, start with the negative. Okay, there's no double roots. There's no spot where the graph bounces. So they're all single roots, so we just have to go ahead and put them in with x and do the opposite number. So this will be x + 2. This one will be x -1 because you do the opposite number. and then x minus 3. And there's no double roots this time, like we had on the last example. You can tell that because the graph, the purple part, keeps going right through. It doesn't bounce. It just keeps going right through. So those are single roots. So make sure you have the lead negative. Hit pause if you need a minute. Okay, go ahead and draw this graph. Hit pause. Okay, you should be back. So, right arrow points down. So we need a lead negative. Remember, it's the right arrow, this arrow that you always look at. So one arrow up, one arrow down. You always check the one on the right. So since the right arrow points down, we need a lead negative. So y equals start with a negative. We also right here have a double root. And you can tell because the graph comes up, touches, and comes back down. So we need an exponent there. Okay. So that's where the double root is, and that's why we need an exponent. So here we go. So this one, you put them in opposites, so x plus 4. This one's a double root, x plus 2 squared. Make sure you have the little 2 up there. And the last one's right here, x minus 1, because you take the opposite sign of these x-intercept numbers, which we went over before. Okay. All right, so that's how you write an equation. I think this was the last one. It is. Have a great day today. Make sure you upload this to your digital workbook. If you need to, you can go back and restudy this.